sense. So on the end of the day, he gets more gold, we get more gold. I mean, many will be happy. I'll just do what I'll do.
A dynasty forged in ice and grit is being tested like never before. Father and son, machines and men, ambition and mistakes. They've battled nature, rivals, and their own limits. But some challenges aren't measured in gold. Some threats come from shadows no one saw coming. In the vast, frozen expanse of the Yukon, legends are forged in mud, ice, and gold. This is a land of extremes, a place that doesn't forgive mistakes and doesn't care about reputations. It's a place that demands everything: your sweat, your sanity, and sometimes your life. And no legend casts a longer, more imposing shadow than Tony Beets. We know him as the Viking, the king of the Klondike, a man as grizzled, uncompromising, and seemingly permanent as the permafrost he tears apart. Alongside him, his family, a dynasty built on grit, diesel smoke, and a healthy amount of family feuding. At his side, his son, Mike Beets, a key lieutenant, the quiet, indispensable mechanic who keeps the colossal, multi-million-dollar operation from grinding to a halt. For years, we've watched them battle the elements, their own multi-ton machinery, and each other on Discovery Channel's hit show, Gold Rush. We've cheered their triumphs, the glitter of gold in a final weigh-in, and we've felt the sting of their failures, the frozen ground, the broken-down equipment, the seasons that bleed red. But in the dark corners of the internet, a new, horrifying story has taken root. A story that doesn't just threaten their season, their profits, or their reputation. It's a story that threatens their very lives. The headline is as stark as it is unbelievable. Tony Beets and Mike Beets from Gold Rush, sentenced to life. It's a bombshell. A life sentence. Let's let that sink in. Not a fine. Not a suspension. Not a public slap on the wrist. Life in prison. This isn't a penalty for a clerical error or a minor spill. A life sentence is a sentence that means you die in a box. It is reserved for the most heinous crimes imaginable: murder, treason, crimes that shock the conscience of a nation. The rumors spread like wildfire, in a way only internet rumors can. Across social media, through Reddit threads, in the comments sections of forums, and on ad-riddled clickbait websites. Fans were left reeling, confused and horrified. How could this be? What could the Beets family, Tony and Mike, have possibly done to warrant the most severe penalty in the justice system? Did it happen on the claim? Was it something from their past? A dark secret, buried deeper than any pay layer? The questions are terrifying, the silence from official sources deafening. But is it true? In a world of digital smoke and mirrors, where a single unverified blog post can be twisted, amplified, and presented as global news in an hour, finding the truth is its own kind of gold rush. We decided to dig. We pushed past the sensational headlines, the what-if videos, and the frantic forum posts. We looked for the source, the court documents, the police reports. We hunted for the facts. And what we found is a story far more complex than a simple headline. It's a story of real crimes, real penalties, and a relentless bureaucratic war. But is it a story that ends with Tony and Mike Beets dying behind bars? We're about to find out. Tony Beets, the man behind the legend. To understand how this rumor could even exist, you have to understand the man at the center of it. Tony Beets is not just a TV personality. He is, to many, the living embodiment of the Klondike. He arrived in Canada from the Netherlands decades ago with little more than a relentless work ethic and an iron will. He worked in construction, on farms, and eventually as a machine operator in the goldfields. He didn't just join the gold rush. He, in many ways, came to define its modern era. He is a throwback, a profane, cigar-chomping patriarch who rules his family and his mining claims with an iron fist. His philosophy is simple: get the gold, no matter the cost. His catchphrases are legendary. His ambition, limitless. This is a man who doesn't just want to mine, he wants to conquer the ground. He's not interested in the small-scale surgical mining of his rivals. Tony Beets thinks in terms of epochs. This is the man who bought the Tamarack and the Viking, two colossal 75-year-old gold dredges. These aren't just machines, they are floating factories, rusted-out monsters from a bygone era. Everyone else saw them as scrap metal, a million-dollar problem. Tony saw them as his legacy. He spent millions of dollars and years of his life bringing these ancient titans back from the dead. He doesn't just mine for gold, he moves mountains and resurrects dinosaurs to do it. His operation isn't a business, it's an empire, and he is its unbending king. His family is the core of that empire. His wife, Minnie, is the unflappable accountant, the only person on Earth who can truly keep Tony's ambitions and his checkbook in check. His daughter Monica and son Kevin have become formidable miners in their own right, running their own crews, battling for their own patch of dirt. And then there's Mike Beets. Mike Beets, the quiet force. If Tony is the thunder and lightning, Mike is the one on the ground fixing what the storm broke. Mike is the quieter son, the mechanical prodigy, the one who inherited his father's work ethic but not his bombastic confrontational style. While Tony dreams up the grand, impossible schemes. Let's move a 700-ton dredge across the permafrost. It's often Mike who is left with the nuts, bolts, and welding torch to make it a reality. His relationship with his father, as seen on the show, is one of tough love and immense, unrelenting pressure. Tony is constantly pushing Mike, demanding more, demanding perfection, often with a string of expletives that would make a sailor blush. Mike, in turn, works tirelessly, often in the background, welding in the mud at 3 a.m., troubleshooting a broken-down D10 dozer in the freezing rain to prevent the entire multi-million-dollar operation from grinding to a halt. For every million-dollar idea Tony has, it's Mike who gets the 10,000-hour headache. He is the essential, often underappreciated gear in the Beets machine. His inclusion in the life sentence rumor is what makes it so particularly strange. Tony is a lightning rod for controversy. But Mike, he's the problem solver, the one who cleans up the messes, not the one who makes them. So if the rumor is true, what crime could possibly unite both the bombastic father and the dutiful son in a life-ending criminal conviction? Our investigation first led us not to a recent event, but back, deep into the archives of the show and the Yukon court system. Because while Tony Beets has not been charged with murder, he has been in serious trouble with the law. The life sentence rumor, it seems, did not materialize from thin air. It's an extreme, grotesque exaggeration of a very real and very public legal battle. It all centers on an event that Gold Rush fans know well. It's been infamously nicknamed the Viking baptism. The scene from Season 5 was pure, unfiltered Tony Beets. After finally getting one of his beloved dredges, the Viking, running, Tony decided it needed a blessing. But this was no symbolic gesture. This wasn't a bottle of champagne. A crew member, Mark Favren, was filmed and allegedly encouraged by Tony to pour a bucket of gasoline directly into the dredge pond. Tony's plan? To light the floating gasoline on fire for a spectacular, fiery baptism. The footage was, in a word, insane. It was a moment of television that made you rewind just to be sure you saw what you saw. And it aired to millions of people. The backlash was immediate and severe. Environmental groups, and more importantly, Yukon residents were horrified. This wasn't just a reality TV stunt. It was a blatant and deliberate act of environmental pollution, broadcast to the world as entertainment. The Yukon is a pristine, fragile ecosystem. Its waterways are its lifeblood, and the laws protecting them are ironclad. To so brazenly, so arrogantly poison a waterway for a camera shot was seen as the ultimate insult. The Yukon government and the Crown prosecution agreed. They didn't see a reality TV star. They saw a polluter. This wasn't a case of, oops, a hydraulic line broke. This was a deliberate, premeditated act. Charges were laid under the Yukon Waters Act. This was not a simple fine. This was a serious criminal proceeding. The Beets Company, Tamarack Incorporated, was in the dock. The case dragged on. Tony and his team fought it, but the video evidence, which they themselves had filmed and provided to the network, was damning. In the end, the company was found guilty. The penalty? A fine of $31,000. A significant sum, to be sure. But let's be clear, it was not a life sentence. It wasn't even a prison sentence. It was a corporate fine. The crew member who actually poured the gasoline, Mark Favron, was also personally fined $1,150. This was the first seed of truth. Tony Beets' company was convicted of a crime. He did face a court. He was penalized. For the internet rumor mill, this was all the fuel it needed. But that's not all. The Viking baptism was just the beginning of Tony's legal woes. It painted a target on his back. From that moment on, the authorities, particularly the Yukon's water board and mining inspectors, were watching his every move. He had publicly declared himself as someone who thought the rules didn't apply to him, and the regulators were now determined to prove him wrong. And Tony, being Tony, didn't make it easy for himself. His entire operational philosophy is about pushing boundaries. He views regulations and paperwork as obstacles, bureaucratic nonsense standing between him and the gold. This philosophy would, once again, land him in court. In 2018, a much more serious incident occurred. An employee of Tony Beets, working at a different claim, was discovered to have discharged a massive amount of diesel fuel from a sump pump into the environment. The amount was not small. We're talking about a significant spill, a major environmental hazard. If the Viking baptism was a stunt, this was a disaster. This time, the authorities were not playing. The Viking baptism was gasoline, which is highly toxic but evaporates relatively quickly. A diesel spill is a different beast. Diesel is heavier, it seeps into the soil, it contaminates the water table for years, and it's incredibly difficult to clean up. The environmental damage is far more lasting. The authorities deemed this a case of profound negligence. The Yukon government came down hard. Once again, Tamarack Incorporated was in court. And this time, the fine was staggering. The company was ordered to pay $175,000. This was one of the largest penalties of its kind in the Yukon's history for an environmental offense. It was a message, sent directly to Tony Beets. Your way of operating is not acceptable. This isn't the 1890s. The king of the Klondike is not above the law. So, let's tally the score. We have one criminal conviction for the Viking baptism, resulting in a $31,000 fine. We have a second, more serious offense for a diesel spill, resulting in a $175,000 fine. That's over $200,000 in penalties. These are real, documented, and serious offenses. This is where the game of internet telephone begins. A real fact. Tony Beets' company fined $175,000 for criminal pollution gets posted on a news site. A YouTuber, looking for content, picks it up. The title of their video is more dramatic. Tony Beets' legal troubles explode. Could he be shut down? Another blog, desperate for clicks, takes it a step further. They interpret the fine. What happens if Tony Beets can't pay the $175,000 fine? He could be held in contempt of court. He could face jail time. This is the key. The word jail time is now attached to Tony Beets. It's a complete hypothetical, a wild leap of logic, but it's there. From there, the leap is depressingly small. A third-rate ad-riddled celebrity news website, notorious for publishing fake stories and obituaries for living celebrities, sees the chatter. They need a headline that will cut through all the noise, and so they invent one. They take Tony Beets and jail time and criminal, and they spin it into the most extreme, clickable, and horrifying headline possible. Tony Beets sentenced to life. But why Mike? Why was Mike Beets' name added to this fabrication? He wasn't named in the lawsuits. He wasn't personally fined. He wasn't the one pouring gasoline or managing the pump that spilled diesel. This, right here, is the smoking gun that exposes the rumor as a complete fabrication. Mike was added for one reason, and one reason only: dramatic effect. Tony Beets sentenced to life is a shocking headline, but Tony Beets and Mike Beets from Gold Rush. Sentenced to life is a tragedy. It's the fall of a dynasty. It's a father and son paying the ultimate price together. It's the end of the Beets family empire. It's a better story. And on the internet, better often beats true. The fabricator who wrote that headline likely knew nothing about the Beets family, other than that Tony and Mike were the main father-son pairing on the show. They simply lumped them together to maximize the emotional impact and therefore the clicks. Mike Beets' only crime was being the son of Tony Beets, making him a valuable addition to a fake headline. So, we have the origin of the rumor. It's a monstrous exaggeration, a game of telephone that started with a $31,000 fine, was amplified by a $175,000 fine, and was then twisted by content farms into a life sentence fantasy. But our investigation isn't over. To definitively debunk this, we must answer the most important question: where are Tony and Mike Beets right now? If they were truly sentenced to life, they would be in a maximum security federal prison in Canada. Their mining operations would be seized, their assets frozen, their contracts with the Discovery Channel would be voided. They would be gone. But they are not. As of right now, Tony and Mike Beets are exactly where they always are: in the Klondike, running their operation. In fact, Gold Rush has continued to film, season after season, with the Beets family as central figures. We've seen them on recent seasons battling the permafrost, fixing broken-down machines, and most importantly, fighting their real war. The true life sentence for Tony Beets isn't prison. It's paperwork. Following his environmental convictions, the Yukon Water Board has scrutinized his every move. For years, the main drama of the Beets crew on Gold Rush hasn't been a criminal trial. It's been the agonizing bureaucratic battle to get their water licenses renewed. In the Klondike, a water license is everything. It is the lifeblood of a gold mine. You cannot run a wash plant. You cannot sluice for gold. You cannot even operate without a license that dictates how much water you can use, where you can get it from, and what condition it must be in when you release it. This is the real battle. It's the 19th century mindset of Tony Beets colliding head-on with the 21st century regulations of a government that is, frankly, fed up with his "ask forgiveness, not permission" attitude. We have watched him, on the show, sit in sterile meeting rooms fuming as regulators and inspectors pick apart his plans. We've watched him be shut down, forced to move multi-million-dollar wash plants, and lose precious time in the short Yukon season, all because his paperwork wasn't in order. His empire is constantly under threat, not from police, but from regulators. The sentence he faces is the potential death of his business by 1,000 paper cuts. A failure to comply with the intricate, complex, and ever-changing environmental laws of the Yukon could lead to his licenses being permanently revoked. That would be the end of the King of the Klondike. And for a man like Tony who lives to mine, losing his ground, his dredges, and his entire way of life might just be a sentence worse than prison. So, let's be unequivocally clear. Are Tony Beets and Mike Beets sentenced to life? Number: It is a complete and total fabrication. It is a lie, born from a kernel of truth. The truth is that Tony Beets' company has a criminal record for environmental pollution. The truth is, he has paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. The truth is, he is in a constant, high-stakes battle with the Yukon government just to keep his machines running. The lie is that this battle involves a prison cell. The lie is that Mike Beets is involved at all. This entire episode is a stark reminder of the world we live in. We crave drama. We are drawn to stories of failure, especially the failure of giants. Tony Beets is a giant. He's a larger-than-life character who invites controversy. He's the perfect target for such a rumor because when you watch him on TV, a small part of you thinks, this guy is crazy enough to do anything. The creators of this rumor preyed on that. They preyed on the public's perception of Tony as a wild, untamable outlaw. But the reality is, the outlaw days are over. The real story of Tony Beets is no longer about a man against the wilderness. It's about a man against the system. He can't charm, bully, or outwork a water license application. He can't yell at a diesel spill until it cleans itself up. The Viking king is being forced to change, to adapt, or to face extinction. He and Mike are not in prison. They are in the Yukon, right now, fighting that very battle. The war for their empire is real, and it's happening every day. But it's being fought with permits, not in a penitentiary. The king of the Klondike remains on his throne. For now. But the walls of the 21st century are closing in.